Maria woke up early, as she always did, to the sound of her alarm clock buzzing loudly on the small wooden table beside her bed. The room was dimly lit by the pale morning light streaming through a crack in the curtains. She stretched her arms and yawned, trying to shake off the tiredness that clung to her after another long night of restless sleep. Her life wasn't easy, but she never complained. For Maria, every day was an opportunity to work hard, provide for her family, and make sure her two young children had everything they needed, even if it meant sacrificing her own comfort. She lived in a modest apartment on the outskirts of Los Angeles, a city known for its glitz and glamour but also for its relentless pace. While others chased dreams of fame and fortune, Maria focused on what truly mattered, putting food on the table and keeping a roof over their heads. Her job as a cleaner at one of the most luxurious hotels downtown didn't pay much, but it was steady work, and she took pride in doing it well. Every corner she dusted, every surface she polished was a testament to her dedication. She knew that even though her role might seem insignificant to some, it played a part in making people's stays comfortable and memorable. That morning, as she prepared for her shift, Maria couldn't help but feel a sense of routine settling over her. She packed her lunch, a simple sandwich wrapped in foil, and made sure her uniform was neatly pressed. Before leaving, she kissed her sleeping children goodbye, careful not to wake them. They were the reason she pushed herself every single day, the reason she smiled despite the hardships. As she stepped out into the cool morning air, she felt a flicker of hope, the kind that came naturally to those who believed tomorrow could be better than today. When Maria arrived at the hotel, the lobby was already bustling with activity. Guests checked in and out. Bellhops rushed around with luggage, and the front desk staff greeted everyone with practiced smiles. She clocked in and headed to the employee break room to grab her cleaning cart. Today, however, there was something different about her assignment. The supervisor handed her a slip of paper with the details of her tasks for the day, and Maria's eyes widened when she saw the name written on it, Keanu Reeves. At first, she thought it must be a mistake. Surely, someone like him wouldn't stay at this hotel, or at least not while she was working here. But as she double-checked the information, her heart began to race. It was real. Keanu Reeves wasn't just any celebrity. He was someone Maria admired deeply. Unlike many Hollywood stars, he carried himself with humility and grace. She'd read stories about how he treated everyone with kindness, whether they were fans or strangers on the street. His movies brought joy to millions, including her own family. Her kids loved watching his action films, cheering whenever he performed daring stunts on screen. Even Maria found herself drawn to his performances, not because of the explosions or special effects, but because of the quiet strength and sincerity he brought to each role. He seemed like the kind of person you could trust, someone who would listen and care. As Maria pushed her cleaning cart toward the elevator, her mind raced with thoughts of what it would be like to meet him. Would he be friendly? Would he even notice her? She reminded herself that celebrities were still human beings, no matter how famous they were. Still, the idea of being in the same room as Keanu Reeves filled her with both excitement and nervousness. What if she accidentally said something awkward? Or worse, what if she dropped something and made a mess? Shaking her head, she tried to focus on the task ahead. After all, she was there to do her job, not to gawk at a guest. The elevator ride to the top floor felt longer than usual, and by the time the doors opened, Maria's palms were sweaty. She wheeled her cart down the hallway, stopping outside the suite listed on her assignment sheet. Taking a deep breath, she knocked gently on the door. When no one answered, she used her key card to enter, pushing the door open slowly. The suite was breathtaking. Spacious and elegantly decorated, with large windows offering a stunning view of the city skyline. And there, sitting by the window with a book in hand, was Keanu Reeves himself. For a moment, Maria froze, unsure of what to do next. Then, sensing her presence, Keanu looked up from his book. His face broke into a warm smile, and he greeted her as if she were an old friend. "Good morning," he said, his voice soft and inviting. Maria swallowed hard, forcing herself to respond. Good morning, Mr. Reeves," she stammered, feeling her cheeks flush with embarrassment. She quickly lowered her gaze, focusing on setting up her cleaning supplies so she wouldn't have to meet his eyes again. Despite her nerves, Maria couldn't help but notice how calm and unassuming Keanu seemed. He didn't act like a movie star or demand anything special. Instead, he simply continued reading his book, occasionally glancing up to offer her another reassuring smile. As she worked, tidying up the room and straightening the furniture, Maria found herself relaxing a little. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. He wasn't standoffish or rude, as some celebrities were rumored to be. In fact, he seemed genuinely kind, almost as if he understood that everyone deserved respect, regardless of their position in life. While Maria cleaned, her thoughts drifted to her children. They idolized Keanu, often reenacting scenes from his movies during playtime. Her youngest son, Mateo, even pretended to ride a motorcycle like the ones Keanu used in his action-packed roles. Sometimes Maria joined in, laughing as they mimicked his character's lines and movements. Those moments of laughter and connection meant the world to her, especially since life didn't leave much room for fun these days. She wished she could tell her kids about meeting Keanu, but she knew they'd never believe her unless she had proof. An idea began to form in Maria's mind, growing stronger with each passing minute. What if she asked him for an autograph? It wouldn't take long, and it would mean so much to her family. She imagined the look on her children's faces when she showed them his signature, proof that their favorite actor had taken the time to acknowledge them. The thought filled her with warmth, but it also made her anxious. Was it too bold to ask? Would he think she was being intrusive? She hesitated, torn between wanting to create a cherished memory for her kids and fearing rejection. As she finished cleaning the bathroom, Maria decided to go for it. After all, what was the worst that could happen? If he said no, she could simply thank him for his time and move on. Gathering her courage, she approached him once more. This time, she held out a small piece of paper she had found in her pocket earlier that day. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. "Mr. Reeves, I'm sorry to bother you, but my kids absolutely love you. Is it okay if I ask for your autograph?" She braced herself for his response, expecting anything from a polite refusal to complete indifference. To her relief, Keanu didn't hesitate. He set his book aside, took the paper from her hand, and signed it with a flourish. "Of course," he said warmly, handing it back to her. "Tell your kids I said hello." Maria beamed, overwhelmed with gratitude. She thanked him profusely, clutching the autograph tightly as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Little did she know this simple interaction would soon lead to consequences far beyond anything she could have imagined. Maria couldn't stop smiling as she finished her work in Keanu's suite. The autograph was safely tucked into her pocket, and she felt a sense of pride knowing she'd done something special for her kids. As she wheeled her cleaning cart out of the room, she glanced back one last time to see Keanu still sitting by the window, engrossed in his book. He looked so calm, so ordinary, that it was hard to believe he was one of the most famous actors in the world. For Maria, meeting him had been surreal but also deeply humanizing. She realized that celebrities, no matter how successful, were still people at the end of the day, people who could choose kindness or indifference. And Keanu, without a doubt, had chosen kindness. But Maria's happiness was short-lived. Just as she reached the elevator, she noticed two hotel managers walking briskly toward her. Their expressions were serious, almost angry, and Maria immediately felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "Maria, can we speak with you for a moment?" one of them asked sharply. Her heart sank as she nodded, unsure of what was happening. They led her to a small office near the staff break room, closing the door behind them. The atmosphere was tense, and Maria struggled to keep her composure as they began questioning her about her interaction with Keanu. Apparently, someone had reported her for bothering the guest. Whether it was another staff member or even Keanu himself, Maria didn't know. All she knew was that her simple request for an autograph had somehow turned into a major issue. "We have strict policies against disturbing our guests," one of the managers said sternly, his tone leaving no room for argument. You should have known better than to approach Mr. Reeves like that. Maria tried to explain, her voice trembling as she spoke. I wasn't trying to bother him, she insisted. He was very kind about it. He didn't seem upset at all. Despite her pleas, the managers remained unmoved. They reminded her of the hotel's zero-tolerance policy when it came to guest privacy, and told her that her actions reflected poorly on the establishment. Maria listened in disbelief, her mind racing with thoughts of how unfair this felt. She hadn't broken any rules, or at least none that she was aware of, and Keanu himself had seemed perfectly fine with her request. Why was she being punished? For something so minor? Before she could say anything else, the final blow came. We're sorry, Maria, but we'll have to let you go. The words hit her like a punch to the gut, leaving her speechless. Maria left the office feeling numb, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on her chest. She walked through the hotel's grand lobby, past the chandeliers and marble floors, barely noticing the opulence around her. Her mind was consumed with worry and fear. How would she tell her children? What would she do now? Cleaning jobs weren't easy to come by, especially ones that paid decently enough to support a family. Losing this job meant more than just a loss of income. It meant losing stability, routine, and the sense of purpose she had worked so hard to build over the years. As she stepped outside into the bright California sun, Maria pulled the autograph from her pocket and stared at it. It was supposed to be a happy memory, a gift for her kids, but now it felt tainted. Tears welled up in her eyes as she thought about how quickly her life had changed in a matter of hours. She wanted to scream, to cry, to lash out at the injustice of it all, but instead she took a deep breath and wiped her tears away. Crying wouldn't fix anything. She needed to stay strong for her children. They depended on her, and she couldn't afford to fall apart, no matter how much it hurt. The bus ride home felt endless. Maria sat silently, clutching the autograph, tightly in her hand, as if it were the only thing keeping her grounded. When she finally arrived at her apartment, she found her kids playing happily in the living room. Mateo, her youngest, ran up to her with a big grin. "Mommy, did you bring us anything?" he asked excitedly. Maria forced a smile, hiding the sadness in her eyes. "Not today, sweetheart," she replied softly, ruffling his hair. Her older daughter Sophia noticed something was wrong. "Are you okay, Mom?" she asked, concern etched on her face. Maria hesitated before nodding. "I'm fine, mija. Just tired." Later that evening, after putting the kids to bed, Maria sat alone in the dimly lit kitchen. She stared at the autograph again, tracing the ink with her fingers. Despite everything, she couldn't help but feel grateful for the brief moment of connection she'd shared with Keanu. He had been nothing but kind to her, and she knew his intentions were good. If only the hotel management had seen things differently, maybe none of this would have happened. Still, there was a part of her that wondered, would Keanu ever find out about what had happened? Would he care? Meanwhile, back at the hotel, word of Maria's firing spread quickly among the staff. Some were sympathetic, whispering about how unfair it was to punish someone for such a harmless act. Others shrugged it off, saying the hotel had every right to enforce its policies. But one person who heard the story refused to let it slide: Keanu Reeves himself. When he learned about Maria's fate later that afternoon, he was visibly shocked. Sitting in his suite, he replayed the interaction in his mind, struggling to understand how asking for an autograph could lead to someone losing their livelihood. To him, it seemed absurd, a gross overreaction to a completely innocent gesture. Determined to get answers, Keanu sought out the hotel management. He knocked on the door of their office, catching them off guard. "I need to talk to you about Maria," he said firmly, his voice steady yet commanding. The managers exchanged nervous glances, clearly unprepared for this confrontation. They stammered through explanations, citing company policies and the importance of maintaining guest satisfaction. But Keanu wasn't satisfied. "She didn't do anything wrong," he countered. "In fact, I appreciated her politeness. Firing her for something so minor is ridiculous." The managers tried to defend their decision, arguing that exceptions couldn't be made, not even for someone like Keanu. But he wasn't backing down. He pointed out that Maria had been respectful, professional, and genuinely kind during their brief encounter. If anything, he added, you should commend her for her dedication to her job. Instead, you've punished her unfairly. His words carried weight, not just because of his celebrity status, but because of the sincerity behind them. It was clear he cared deeply about fairness and justice, and he wasn't going to let this matter rest until something was done. When it became obvious that the hotel wouldn't reconsider their decision, Keanu decided to take matters into his own hands. He asked for Maria's contact information, intending to reach out to her personally. The managers hesitated at first, citing privacy concerns, but Keanu's persistence eventually won them over. Armed with her phone number, he made a mental note to call her as soon as possible. For now, though, he couldn't shake the image of Maria leaving the hotel earlier that day. Her shoulders slumped, her steps heavy with defeat. He knew she deserved better, and he was determined to make sure she got it. That night, as Keanu lay in bed thinking about Maria, he reflected on the broader implications of what had happened. In a world where wealth and fame often created barriers between people, moments of genuine connection were rare and precious. Maria's courage to approach him, despite her nerves, had reminded him of the importance of treating everyone with dignity and respect. And while he couldn't undo the damage caused by the hotel's decision, he could at least try to make things right for her. With that thought in mind, he drifted off to sleep, already planning his next move. The next morning, Maria woke up feeling heavy, as if the weight of the world had settled on her shoulders. She hadn't slept much the night before, tossing and turning as she replayed the events of the previous day in her mind. Losing her job was bad enough, but the thought of facing her children with the news made it even harder to bear. Matteo and Sofia were too young to fully understand the complexities of adult life, but they weren't blind to their mother's struggles. They'd seen her come home tired after long shifts, her hands rough from cleaning and her back aching from standing all day. Now she would have to explain why things might get tougher for a while. Maria decided to wait until later to tell them. For now, she focused on keeping the household running smoothly. She prepared breakfast, helped the kids get ready for school, and tidied up the apartment. But every task felt heavier than usual, each movement draining what little energy she had left. By mid-morning, she sat at the kitchen table staring blankly at the wall. Her mind kept circling back to Keanu Reeves. Had he known about her firing? Would he care? Part of her wanted to believe that someone like him, someone who seemed so kind and genuine, wouldn't stand by and let something so unfair happen. But another part of her reminded herself not to get her hopes up. Celebrities lived in a different world, one far removed from the struggles of everyday people like her. Just as Maria began convincing herself that Keanu wouldn't give her another thought, her phone buzzed loudly on the counter. Startled, she glanced at the screen and saw an unfamiliar number flashing. Her heart skipped a beat. Who could it be? Hesitant but curious, she picked up the call. "Hello?" she said softly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. On the other end of the line, a familiar voice responded. "Maria, this is Keanu Reeves." Time seemed to stop. Maria froze, her breath catching in her throat. It took her a moment to process what was happening. Was this real? Or was she imagining things? Keanu continued speaking, his tone warm and reassuring. "I heard about what happened yesterday," he said. "And I just wanted to say how sorry I am that you lost your job because of me." Maria's eyes filled with tears as she listened. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Finally, after a long pause, she managed to choke out a quiet, "Thank you." Keanu went on to explain that he had tried to intervene with the hotel management, hoping they would reconsider their decision, but they had refused to budge. "I didn't think it was fair," he admitted. "You didn't deserve to lose your job over something so small." Maria felt a wave of emotions wash over her. Gratitude, relief, disbelief, all tangled together. She couldn't believe that Keanu had taken the time to reach out, let alone advocate for her. Most people in his position wouldn't have given her a second thought, yet here he was, calling her personally to apologize and offer support. As they talked, Keanu asked about her situation, genuinely interested in understanding her story. He listened patiently as Maria explained how challenging it had been to provide for her family, especially since her husband had passed away a few years earlier. She didn't share these details to elicit pity. She simply wanted him to know why this job had meant so much to her. After hearing her story, Keanu didn't hesitate. "Maria, I want to help," he said firmly. "This isn't right, and I don't want you to suffer because of something I inadvertently caused." He told her that he had already contacted a friend of his, a successful business owner who ran a reputable cleaning company, and arranged for her to meet with them. The company, he assured her, offered competitive pay, excellent benefits, and opportunities for growth. "They're expecting your call," he added. "I've already spoken to them, and they're eager to bring you on board." Maria was overwhelmed. Words failed her as she tried to express her gratitude, but Keanu seemed to understand. "You don't need to thank me," he said kindly. "You're the one who deserves credit for working so hard and staying strong despite everything. All I did was point you in the right direction." Before ending the call, he encouraged her to take care of herself and promised to check in again soon. When the line went silent, Maria sat motionless, holding the phone tightly in her hand. Her mind raced with questions. Was this really happening? Could life actually turn around so quickly? Later that afternoon, Maria called the cleaning company Keanu had mentioned. True to his word, they welcomed her warmly and expressed excitement about having her join their team. After a brief interview, they offered her a position starting the following week. Not only was the pay better than her previous job, but the schedule was more flexible, allowing her to spend more time with her children. Maria accepted the offer. Without hesitation, her heart swelling with hope for the first time in days. She knew this new opportunity wouldn't erase the challenges ahead, but it gave her a fresh start, a chance to rebuild and move forward. That evening, Maria gathered her kids in the living room to share the news. At first she hesitated, unsure of how to explain everything that had happened, but then she decided to focus on the positive. "Kids," she began, smiling despite the lump in her throat, "something amazing happened today." Matteo and Sophia looked at her curiously, waiting for her to continue. Taking a deep breath, Maria told them about meeting Keanu Reeves, losing her job, and how he had stepped in to help her find a new one. She showed them the autograph again, explaining that it wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a reminder that kindness existed in the world, even when things felt hopeless. Her children listened intently, their eyes wide with wonder. "So, does that mean we can meet him someday?" Matteo asked excitedly. Maria laughed, ruffling his hair. "Maybe," she replied, "but for now, let's focus on being grateful for what we have." As they hugged her tightly, Maria felt a sense of peace wash over her. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to believe that things would be okay. Life might throw curveballs, but sometimes unexpected acts of kindness could change everything. News of Keanu's involvement in Maria's story eventually reached the media. Someone at the hotel had leaked the details, and soon, articles and social media posts began circulating about the actor's generosity. People praised him not just for helping Maria, but for using his influence to stand up for someone who couldn't stand up for themselves. Comments flooded in from fans and strangers alike, expressing admiration for his actions. Some shared their own stories of encountering celebrities who had shown similar kindness, while others lamented the lack of empathy in the world. The story resonated deeply, reminding everyone of the power of compassion and humanity. For Maria, the attention was both surprising and humbling. Reporters called her, asking for interviews, but she politely declined. She didn't want to draw too much focus to herself. Instead, she preferred to let Keanu's actions speak for themselves. Still, she couldn't deny the impact his gesture had made, not just on her life, but on countless others who read about it. Strangers reached out to her online, sending messages of encouragement and sharing how her story had inspired them. One woman wrote about how she had recently lost her job and felt hopeless until reading about Maria's experience. Your story reminded me that good things can still happen, the message read. Thank you for giving me hope. As weeks passed, Maria settled into her new role at the cleaning company. Her coworkers were friendly and supportive, and her boss frequently praised her work ethic. She found joy in the little things, like coming home to her kids after a fulfilling day or watching Matteo and Sofia laugh as they played together. The framed autograph hung proudly on her living room wall, a symbol of resilience and kindness. Every time she looked at it, she was reminded of the chain of events that had led her here, and of the man who had unknowingly changed her life. Meanwhile, Keanu remained humble about the entire ordeal. When reporters asked him about it during interviews, he shrugged it off, saying simply, "I just did what anyone else would have done." But those who followed his career closely knew better. This wasn't the first time Keanu had gone out of his way to help someone in need, and it likely wouldn't be the last. His actions spoke louder than any words ever could, proving that true greatness wasn't measured by fame or fortune, but by the way one treated others. And for Maria, that lesson would stay with her forever. Maria's life began to settle into a new rhythm as she adjusted to her job at the cleaning company. The work was similar to what she had done before, but there was a noticeable difference in how she felt about it. Her new workplace wasn't just a place to earn a paycheck. It was somewhere she felt valued and respected. Her coworkers treated her like family, often sharing laughs during breaks and offering help when she needed it. Even her boss made an effort to check in regularly, asking how things were going both at work and at home. For Maria, this sense of belonging was something she hadn't realized she'd been missing until now. The flexibility of her schedule also made a big difference. Before, long hours at the hotel had left her exhausted, with little energy to spend quality time with her kids. Now she could pick them up from school more often or surprise them with an afternoon outing. Matteo and Sofia noticed the change too. They loved having their mom around more, and their bond grew stronger with each passing day. On weekends, they would sit together in the living room, talking about their week or watching one of Keanu Reeves's movies. Maria always smiled when her kids cheered for him on screen, knowing how much his kindness had impacted their lives behind the scenes. Despite the positive changes, Maria couldn't forget the lessons she had learned through her ordeal. Losing her previous job had been painful, but it had taught her resilience and reminded her of the importance of standing up for herself. She realized that sometimes unfairness wasn't personal, it was systemic, built into rules and policies designed to protect businesses rather than people. But she also learned that even in difficult situations, there were opportunities for growth. If Keanu hadn't stepped in, she might never have found this better job or discovered the strength within herself to keep moving forward. Her story continued to spread, inspiring others far beyond what she had imagined. Social media buzzed with posts praising not only Keanu's actions, but also Maria's courage in sharing her experience. People admired her honesty and vulnerability, seeing her as a symbol of hope for anyone facing tough times. Messages poured in from strangers all over the world, many of whom shared their own struggles and thanked her for reminding them that kindness still existed. Some even sent small gifts or donations to support her family, though Maria politely declined most of them. "I don't want handouts," she told those who reached out. "What I really want is for people to pay it forward, to be kind to someone else when they see a chance." One message stood out to Maria more than the others. It came from a young woman named Clara, who wrote about how Maria's story had given her the courage to speak up after being mistreated at her own job. "I was scared to say anything because I didn't think anyone would listen," Clara explained. "But reading about you made me realize I deserved better. So I talked to my manager, and guess what? Things are starting to change." Maria read the message several times, tears streaming down her face. She hadn't expected her experience to inspire others to take action, but knowing it had filled her with pride and purpose. As weeks turned into months, Maria started thinking about ways she could give back to her community. She knew firsthand how hard it was to juggle work, family, and financial pressures, and she wanted to help others navigate those challenges. With encouragement from her coworkers, she began volunteering at a local nonprofit organization that supported single mothers. At first, she helped with small tasks, like organizing supplies or assisting with childcare during meetings. But soon, she found herself leading workshops where she shared tips on budgeting, time management, and staying positive during tough times. The women who attended were grateful for her advice, often telling her how much it meant to hear from someone who truly understood their struggles. Word of Maria's volunteer work eventually reached Keanu Reeves. A mutual acquaintance mentioned it to him during a casual conversation, and he was delighted to hear how far she had come since their brief encounter. Impressed by her determination to help others, he decided to reach out again. This time, he sent her a handwritten letter expressing his admiration for her efforts. "You've turned a difficult situation into something beautiful," he wrote. "Not everyone would have the strength or generosity to do what you're doing. Keep going, you're making a real difference." Enclosed with the letter was a donation to the nonprofit organization, along with a note encouraging Maria to use it however she saw fit. When Maria received the letter, she was overcome with emotion. Reading Keanu's words felt like a warm hug, a reminder that she wasn't alone in her journey. She framed the letter alongside the autograph and hung it on her wall, creating a small corner dedicated to gratitude and inspiration. Over the following weeks, she used the donation to expand the nonprofit's programs, adding workshops on career development and mental health awareness. More women joined the group, eager to learn and connect with others who shared their experiences. Seeing the impact of her work reinforced Maria's belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could create ripples of change. Keanu, meanwhile, remained humble about his role in Maria's transformation. When asked about it during interviews, he continued to downplay his involvement, emphasizing that Maria was the true hero of the story. "She's the one who faced adversity head-on and turned it into something positive," he said. "All I did was open a door for her. She's the one walking through it with grace and strength." His humility only added to the admiration people felt for him. Fans praised him not just for his talent as an actor, but for his character as a human being. Many noted that his actions reflected the same values he portrayed in his films. Values like integrity, compassion, and perseverance. While Maria appreciated the praise directed at Keanu, she also hoped people would focus on the bigger picture. To her, the story wasn't just about one celebrity helping a struggling cleaner. It was about the power of empathy and the importance of looking out for one another. In a world that often felt divided and disconnected, moments like these served as reminders that humanity still had the capacity for goodness, whether it was a stranger lending a hand, a friend offering a listening ear, or a boss showing understanding. Every act of kindness mattered. As the months went by, Maria's confidence grew. She no longer doubted her ability to handle whatever life threw her way. Challenges still arose, of course, they always did, but she faced them with a renewed sense of purpose. She taught her children the value of hard work and kindness, instilling in them the belief that they could overcome obstacles if they stayed true to themselves. Matteo and Sophia soaked up her lessons, often surprising her with their insights. One evening, as they sat together watching one of Keanu's movies, Sophia turned to her and said, "Mom, you're like him. You're strong and brave, and you care about people." Maria hugged her tightly, feeling a swell of pride. Looking back on everything that had happened, Maria realized how much she had grown, not just as a worker or a parent, but as a person. She had started out simply trying to provide for her family, but along the way, she had discovered her own strength and capacity to make a difference. Her meeting with Keanu Reeves had been a turning point, yes, but it was her choices afterward that defined her journey. From finding a better job to volunteering, at the nonprofit, she had taken control of her life and used her experiences to uplift others. And though she knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, she felt ready to face it, one step at a time. By the end of the year, Maria's story had become a beacon of hope for countless individuals. It was featured in magazines, discussed, on talk shows, and shared in online forums. People marveled at how one small act of kindness, a signed autograph, had sparked a chain reaction of positivity. For Maria, the attention was bittersweet. She was grateful for the platform it gave her to advocate for others, but she never lost sight of the fact that her story was just one among millions. There were countless untold stories of resilience and compassion waiting to be heard, and she hoped hers would inspire others to share theirs. In the quiet moments, when the noise of the outside world faded away, Maria often reflected on the twists and turns her life had taken. She thought about the day she met Keanu, the day she lost her job, and the day she decided to keep fighting. Each moment had shaped her in ways she couldn't have predicted, teaching her lessons she would carry for the rest of her life. And as she looked around at her children, her co-workers, and the women she mentored, she knew one thing for certain. Kindness wasn't just a fleeting gesture. It was a force capable of changing lives forever. Maria's journey wasn't just about finding stability again. It was also about discovering her voice. As she continued volunteering at the nonprofit organization, she realized that sharing her story could inspire others in ways she hadn't fully anticipated. At first, speaking publicly made her nervous. She worried about being judged or misunderstood. But every time she stood in front of a group of women and shared her struggles, the loss of her job, the fear of uncertainty, and the kindness that changed everything, she saw nods of understanding, tears of recognition, and smiles of encouragement. It reminded her that she wasn't alone, and neither were they. The workshops she led became more than just practical advice sessions. They turned into safe spaces where women could open up about their own challenges without fear of judgment. Maria listened intently to their stories, offering words of comfort and guidance when needed. Some spoke of abusive relationships they had escaped, while others talked about financial hardships that left them feeling trapped. Each story was unique, yet they all carried a common thread: the desire to create a better future for themselves and their families. Maria often told them, "You're stronger than you think. You've already survived so much. Now it's time to take control of your life and build something beautiful." Her growing confidence didn't go unnoticed. One day, her boss at the cleaning company approached her with an unexpected offer. "Maria," he said, "we've been thinking about starting a mentorship program for our employees. We want someone who can guide new hires, help them adjust, and show them that success is possible no matter where they start. Would you be interested?" Maria was taken aback. The idea of mentoring others excited her, but she wondered if she was ready for such a responsibility. After some thought, she accepted the offer, knowing it was another opportunity to make a difference. The mentorship program quickly gained traction. New employees appreciated having someone like Maria to turn to, not just for work-related questions but also for personal advice. She became known as the go-to person for anyone struggling to balance work and family life. Her ability to connect with people on a deeper level set her apart, and soon, her colleagues started referring to her as a natural leader. Though Maria never sought recognition, she couldn't deny the sense of fulfillment she felt from helping others succeed. Meanwhile, Keanu Reeves' role in Maria's life remained a source of inspiration for everyone around her. People often asked how she managed to stay positive after losing her previous job, and she always credited his kindness as a turning point. "He didn't have to do anything," she would say, "but he chose to care, and that meant the world to me." Her gratitude wasn't just limited to him. It extended to everyone who had supported her along the way, from her co-workers to the women she mentored. She believed that kindness was contagious, and she wanted to spread it as far as possible. As the word of Maria's efforts spread, invitations began pouring in for her to speak at community events and local schools. At first she hesitated, unsure if she had anything valuable to share. But once she stepped onto the stage for her first talk, she realized that her story resonated deeply with audiences. She spoke candidly about her fears, failures, and triumphs, emphasizing the importance of resilience and self-belief. "Life doesn't always go the way we plan," she told one audience. "But even in the hardest moments, there's always a chance to start over. All you need is hope and the willingness to keep trying." Her speeches struck a chord, especially with young people. Many students approached her after her talks, sharing their dreams and concerns. Some wanted to know how to overcome self-doubt, while others sought advice on pursuing careers despite difficult circumstances. Maria encouraged them to focus on their strengths and surround themselves with supportive people. You don't have to figure everything out right away, she assured them. Just take it one step at a time and remember that you're not alone. There are people who believe in you, even if you don't see them yet. One particular encounter stayed with Maria long after the event ended. A teenage girl named Lily approached her timidly, clutching a notebook filled with sketches. I love drawing, Lily confessed. But my parents say I should focus on school instead. They think art isn't a real career. Maria smiled warmly, remembering her own doubts about whether she could provide for her family. Art is a gift, she told Lily. If it makes you happy and gives you purpose, don't give up on it. Find a way to incorporate it into your life, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Who knows? Maybe someday it will lead you somewhere amazing. Lily's eyes lit up and she thanked Maria with a hug before leaving. Later that evening, Maria reflected on the conversation, realizing how much she had grown since the days when she doubted herself. Back then, she had focused solely on survival, rarely allowing herself to dream beyond meeting basic needs. Now, she understood that dreams weren't luxuries. They were essential parts of life that gave meaning to hard work and perseverance. Helping others chase their dreams brought her immense joy, and she vowed to continue doing so for as long as she could. Around this time, Maria received another surprise. A local news station contacted her, asking if they could feature her story in a special segment about everyday heroes. At first, she declined, feeling uncomfortable with the idea of being labeled a hero. But when they explained that the segment aimed to highlight ordinary people making extraordinary impacts, she agreed. The interview aired during prime time, reaching thousands of viewers across the city. Friends, neighbors, and even former co-workers called to congratulate her, saying they were proud of everything she had accomplished. The exposure brought new opportunities, including partnerships with organizations focused on empowering women and families. Maria collaborated with these groups to host larger workshops and fundraisers, raising awareness about issues like workplace rights, mental health, and access to education. Through these initiatives, she connected with leaders and activists who shared her vision of creating a fairer, kinder world. Together, they brainstormed ideas and implemented programs that addressed systemic challenges faced by marginalized communities. Despite her growing influence, Maria remained grounded. She refused to let fame or even minor recognition change who she was. Her priority remained her children, and she made sure to spend quality time with them whenever she could. Matteo and Sophia loved hearing about her adventures, often asking her to recount stories from her workshops or interviews. Sometimes they acted out scenes where Maria played the role of a superhero fighting injustice. Laughing, she would join in, pretending to save the day with her trusty mop and bucket. These playful moments reminded her that even amidst serious work, there was room for fun and laughter. As the months passed, Maria noticed subtle shifts in her community. More people seemed willing to lend a hand, whether it was volunteering at the nonprofit, donating supplies, or simply checking in on neighbors. Conversations about kindness and empathy became more frequent, and acts of generosity grew in number. Maria took pride in knowing that her efforts, however small, had contributed to this positive change. She often thought about Keanu's initial act of kindness, and how it had sparked a ripple effect that reached far beyond either of them. Keanu himself followed Maria's progress from afar, occasionally sending messages of support. He admired her determination to use her platform for good and saw her as proof that one person truly could make a difference. When he learned about the nonprofit's expanded programs and the mentorship initiative at her workplace, he sent another donation, this time anonymously. Maria discovered the contribution only when the nonprofit director mentioned it during a meeting. Touched by his continued generosity, she wrote him a heartfelt note, thanking him once again for believing in her when she needed it most. By the end of the year, Maria's life looked vastly different from what it had been just 12 months earlier. She had gone from being a struggling cleaner fired unjustly to becoming a respected mentor, advocate, and community leader. Her journey wasn't without its challenges. There were still tough days, moments of doubt, and obstacles to overcome, but She faced them with unwavering resolve. Most importantly, she had built a life filled with purpose, surrounded by people who loved and supported her. Looking ahead, Maria knew there was still much work to be done. Inequality, hardship, and injustice persisted, affecting countless lives every day. But rather than feeling overwhelmed, she felt motivated. She believed that change happened gradually, through consistent effort and collective action, and she was determined to keep playing her part no matter how big or small. For Maria, the true measure of success wasn't wealth or recognition. It was the knowledge that she had made someone's life a little brighter, a little easier, or a little more hopeful. In quieter moments, Maria often returned to the framed autograph hanging on her wall. It served as a reminder of where her journey had begun and the incredible chain of events that had unfolded since then. Each time she looked at it, she whispered a silent thank you, not just to Keanu, but to everyone who had touched her life along the way. From her children to her co-workers, from strangers turned friends to the countless individuals she had helped. As the years went by, Maria's influence continued to grow, not because she sought fame or recognition, but because her actions inspired others to follow her example. The ripple effect of kindness she had started with Keanu Reeves' simple gesture now extended far beyond what anyone could have imagined. People from all walks of life, mothers struggling to make ends meet, teenagers dreaming of a better future, and even strangers passing through the community, found hope in her story. They saw in Maria a reflection of their own potential, someone who had faced adversity head-on and emerged stronger, using her experiences to uplift others. Maria's nonprofit organization became a cornerstone of the community, offering resources and support to those in need. What had once been a small group meeting in a borrowed church basement transformed into a thriving hub of activity. Volunteers poured in, eager to contribute their skills and time. Local businesses donated supplies, while schools partnered with the nonprofit to provide educational workshops for children and adults alike. Maria watched with pride as the organization evolved, knowing that every program, every class, and every conversation was planting seeds of change that would bloom in the years to come. Her mentorship role at work also flourished. The cleaning company expanded its team, hiring more employees and implementing policies that prioritized fairness and compassion. Inspired by Maria's leadership, her boss introduced initiatives like flexible schedules for parents and mental health days for all staff members. These changes didn't just benefit the workers, they created a culture of mutual respect and understanding that permeated every level of the business. Employees often said they felt valued and supported, something many hadn't experienced in previous jobs. Maria took no credit for these improvements, but everyone knew her advocacy had played a key part. Despite her busy schedule, Maria never lost sight of what mattered most: her family. Mateo and Sofia were growing up quickly, and she cherished every moment spent with them. On weekends, they explored parks, visited museums, or simply stayed home baking cookies together. Maria encouraged her kids to pursue their passions, whether it was Mateo's love for soccer or Sofia's talent for painting. She reminded them daily that they were capable of achieving anything they set their minds to, as long as they worked hard and treated others with kindness. Watching her children thrive filled Maria with a sense of fulfillment that nothing else could match. One day, while scrolling through social media, Maria stumbled upon a post from Lily, the teenage girl who had approached her after one of her talks. Lily had uploaded photos of her artwork, which had been featured in a local gallery exhibition. The caption read, "Thank you, Maria, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. You showed me that dreams are worth chasing." Tears welled up in Maria's eyes as she stared at the screen. It was moments like these that reminded her why she did what she did, not for recognition but for the chance to help someone else shine. Maria's story eventually reached audiences outside her immediate community. A documentary filmmaker learned about her journey and decided to create a short film highlighting her impact. At first, Maria hesitated, fearing the attention might overshadow the real message. But when the filmmaker explained that the project aimed to amplify voices like hers, she agreed. The resulting film captured not only Maria's struggles and triumphs, but also the stories of the women she mentored, the families she supported, and the broader movement toward kindness and resilience she had sparked. When it premiered at a local theater, the audience erupted into applause, moved by the authenticity and heart of the narrative. The documentary brought even more opportunities Maria's way, including invitations to speak at conferences and events across the country. Though traveling was daunting at first, she embraced it as a chance to share her message with wider audiences. Everywhere she went, people greeted her warmly, sharing how her story had touched their lives. Some told her they had started volunteering after hearing her speak. Others said they had reconnected with loved ones or pursued goals they had abandoned out of fear. Each story reinforced Maria's belief in the power of connection and empathy to transform lives. Back home, Maria continued expanding her efforts. She collaborated with schools to develop programs teaching students about empathy and conflict resolution. She worked with local leaders to advocate for policies supporting working mothers and low-income families. And she remained deeply involved in her nonprofit, ensuring it stayed true to its mission of empowering individuals to overcome challenges. Through it all, she maintained her humility, always crediting the people around her for their contributions. "I'm just one piece of the puzzle," she often said. "It takes all of us working together to create real change." Keanu Reeves occasionally checked in on Maria, sending messages of encouragement or sharing updates about his own projects. Their friendship, though mostly conducted through letters and phone calls, remained a source of joy for both of them. Once, during an interview, a reporter asked Keanu if he ever thought about the impact of signing that autograph years ago. He smiled and replied, "That moment wasn't about me, it was about Maria. She's the one who turned a small act of kindness into something extraordinary." That's the beauty of humanity. We're all connected, and we all have the power to make a difference. Maria heard about the comment later and couldn't help but smile. She had always known Keanu was special, not because of his fame but because of his genuine care for others. Yet she also understood that his kindness was just one part of her story. Her journey was shaped by countless acts of generosity, big and small, from people who believed in her when she doubted herself, from her co-workers at the new cleaning company to the volunteers at the nonprofit, from the women she mentored to her own children. Maria's life was a testament to the idea that no one succeeds alone. As she stood on stage at a national conference, years after her ordeal, addressing an audience of thousands, Maria reflected on how far she had come. She spoke about the importance of resilience, the value of community, and the transformative power of kindness. "Life will throw challenges your way," she said, her voice steady and heartfelt. "But remember this, even in your darkest moments, there is light. Sometimes it comes from unexpected places, a stranger's smile, a friend's hug, or a simple act of kindness. Hold on to that light and let it guide you forward. Because when we lift each other up, we can achieve incredible things." The audience erupted into applause, standing to honor the woman whose courage and determination had inspired so many. As Maria stepped off the stage, she felt a deep sense of peace. Her journey hadn't been easy, but it had been meaningful. She had faced loss, hardship, and uncertainty, yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Most importantly, she had created a legacy of kindness that would continue long after she was gone. Years later, Maria's story lived on, not just in the memories of those she had helped, but in the actions of countless individuals who carried her message forward. Schools taught lessons based on her principles of empathy and resilience. Nonprofits modeled their programs after hers, focusing on empowerment and community building. And families passed down tales of a single mother who refused to give up, proving that even the smallest acts of kindness could spark monumental change. For Maria, the true reward wasn't the accolades or recognition. It was knowing that she had made a difference. Whether it was helping a young artist find confidence, mentoring a coworker, navigating tough times, or simply reminding someone they weren't alone, her impact was immeasurable. As she sat in her living room one evening, surrounded by her children and grandchildren, Maria looked around with gratitude. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was rich with love. purpose, and connection. And in her heart, she knew one thing for certain: kindness had saved her, and kindness would always be her guiding star.